Maya Johnson wheeled her chair down the hallway of Lincoln High School, her books balanced carefully on her lap. The familiar sound of whispers followed her as she passed groups of students. At 17, she had grown used to the stares and the hushed conversations that seemed to happen whenever she appeared. Born with spina bifida, Maya had been using a wheelchair since she was a child, but that never stopped her from living her life to the fullest. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the school corridor, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Maya navigated skillfully around other students, her strong arms propelling her wheelchair with practiced ease. She had developed impressive upper body strength over the years, though most people only saw the chair, not the determined young woman sitting in it. As she approached her locker, Maya noticed a group of students gathered nearby. Among them was Brad Stevens, a tall, muscular senior who played on the football team. Brad had made it his personal mission to make Maya's life difficult since the beginning of the school year. His cruel comments and thoughtless actions had become a daily challenge for her to face. "Watch out, everyone," Brad called out loudly as Maya approached. "Here comes the speed racer. Better move before she runs us over with her fancy ride." His friends laughed at the comment, and Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She had heard worse from Brad before, but the public humiliation never got easier. She kept her head down and focused on opening her locker, trying to ignore the snickers and whispered comments from the growing crowd. "What's wrong, Maya?" Brad continued, stepping closer to her wheelchair. "Cat got your tongue? Or maybe your wheels need oil? I think I hear some squeaking." Maya finally looked up, meeting his gaze with quiet dignity. "I'm just trying to get my books, Brad. Can you please move so I can get to my locker?" "Oh, she speaks," Brad announced dramatically. "Hey guys, did you know that Wheels here is actually pretty smart? I heard she gets straight A's. Must be because she has nothing better to do than study all day. I mean, what else can she do, right?" The crowd around them had grown larger, with students pulling out their phones to record the interaction. Maya felt trapped, surrounded by faces that showed everything from amusement to pity, but very little genuine concern for her feelings. Sarah Martinez, Maya's best friend since childhood, pushed through the crowd. "Leave her alone, Brad," Sarah said firmly. "Don't you have anything better to do than pick on people?" "Oh, look, here comes the defender," Brad smirked. "What are you going to do, Sarah? Fight me? At least you can stand up, unlike your friend here." Maya's hands tightened on the arms of her wheelchair. She had endured months of Brad's harassment, and she could feel something building inside her. But she also knew that any reaction from her would only make things worse. The school administration had a way of blaming victims when they finally stood up for themselves. "I don't need anyone to fight my battles," Maya said quietly, but her voice carried clearly in the hallway. "I can handle myself just fine." Brad laughed loudly. "Handle yourself? That's rich. What are you going to do? Roll over my foot?" Before Maya could respond, Brad deliberately stepped on one of her wheelchair's footrests, causing the chair to jolt backward. Maya had to grip the wheels quickly to prevent herself from rolling into other students. The crowd gasped, some laughing while others looked uncomfortable with how far Brad was taking his bullying. "Oops," Brad said with fake innocence. "Sorry about that. These chairs are so hard to see sometimes." Maya's heart was racing, not from fear, but from a different kind of energy. Unknown to everyone at Lincoln High School, Maya had been secretly training in martial arts for over 8 years. Her sensei, Master Chen, had modified traditional techniques specifically for wheelchair users, and Maya had become incredibly skilled at adapted martial arts. Every evening after school, Maya would go to Master Chen's small dojo on the outskirts of town. There, she would transform from the quiet, bullied student into a fierce and focused martial artist. She had learned to use her wheelchair not as a limitation, but as an extension of her body and a tool for both defense and offense. Master Chen had taught her that true strength came not from seeking revenge, but from having the discipline to use her skills only when absolutely necessary. He had also taught her that sometimes the greatest victory came from walking away from a fight, even when you had the power to win it. But as Brad continued his harassment, Maya found herself struggling with these lessons. Her hands itched to show him exactly what she was capable of, to wipe that smug expression off his face and show him that she was far from helpless. The techniques she had mastered flowed through her mind. The precise strikes, the leverage moves, the ways she could use her wheelchair's momentum to her advantage. "You know what, Maya?" Brad continued, seemingly unaware of the danger he was putting himself in. "I think someone should teach you your place. Maybe if you stayed home where you belong, you wouldn't have to deal with all this." The hallway had gone quieter now, with even Brad's usual supporters looking uncomfortable. Some students were starting to disperse, sensing that the situation was escalating beyond typical school bullying. Maya took a deep breath, drawing on the meditation techniques Master Chen had taught her. She could feel her heart rate slowing, her mind becoming clearer. This was not the time or place to reveal her abilities. Not yet. "I belong here just as much as anyone else," Maya said calmly. "And someday, Brad, you're going to realize that underestimating people is a very dangerous habit." Something in her tone made Brad pause for a moment. There was a quiet confidence in Maya's voice that he hadn't heard before, something that suggested she knew more than she was letting on. But Brad quickly shook off the feeling and returned to his usual arrogant demeanor. "Is that supposed to be some kind of threat? What are you going to do, tell the principal? Run to your mommy?" "I don't make threats," Maya replied, her voice steady and calm. "I just know that actions have consequences, and everyone gets what they deserve eventually." The bell rang, signaling the start of first period, and the crowd began to disperse. Brad made a show of stepping aside dramatically, sweeping his arm in an exaggerated bow. "There you go, Your Highness. The hallway is all yours. Try not to run into anything on your way to class." As Maya wheeled past him toward her first class, Brad couldn't resist one final humiliation. He pretended to trip, bumping hard into the back of her wheelchair and causing her books to spill across the floor. "Whoops. Sorry again," he said with obvious insincerity. "I'm so clumsy today." Maya stopped her wheelchair and looked down at her scattered books and papers. Students were stepping around them, hurrying to get to class, and no one offered to help her pick them up. She could feel tears of frustration building in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the sheer effort of restraining herself. Sarah had already disappeared into the crowd, thinking the incident was over. Maya was alone in the hallway with her scattered belongings and Brad's mocking laughter echoing behind her. As she began to collect her things, Maya made a silent promise to herself. She had been patient long enough. She had tried to handle the situation the way adults always told students to handle bullying, by ignoring it, by reporting it, by walking away. But nothing had worked, and Brad was only getting worse. Master Chen had always told her that martial arts were not just about physical techniques, but about understanding when to use them. He had taught her that a true martial artist protects not only themselves, but also others who cannot protect themselves. Maya realized that by allowing Brad's behavior to continue unchecked, she might be enabling him to hurt other students who didn't have her training or inner strength. That evening, as Maya made her way to the dojo, she replayed the day's events in her mind. She thought about the faces of the students who had watched Brad humiliate her, some laughing, others uncomfortable, but none willing to step in and help. She thought about how many other students Brad had probably treated the same way, and how many more he would target in the future. At the dojo, Master Chen immediately noticed the tension in Maya's posture and the determined set of her jaw. He had been training her long enough to recognize when she was struggling with the balance between power and restraint. You look like someone who has had a challenging day, Master Chen observed as Maya transferred from her wheelchair to the training mat. I'm tired of being everyone's target, Maya admitted. I'm tired of pretending that I'm helpless when I know I'm not. I'm tired of letting people think they can treat me however they want just because I'm in a wheelchair. Master Chen nodded thoughtfully. And what do you think you should do about this feeling? I think it might be time to show them what I'm really capable of, Maya said quietly. And what would that accomplish? Master Chen asked. Maya considered his question carefully. Maybe it would make them think twice before they pick on someone else. Maybe it would show other students that they don't have to be victims either. Master Chen was quiet for a long moment, watching his student wrestle with these difficult questions. Finally, he spoke. There is wisdom in what you say, Maya. But remember, once you reveal your abilities, you cannot take that knowledge back. People will see you differently, and you will have different responsibilities. Are you prepared for that change? Maya thought about Master Chen's words as they began their training session. As she moved through her forms and practiced her techniques, she felt the familiar sense of power and confidence that came with her martial arts training. Here in the dojo, she was not the bullied girl in the wheelchair. Here, she was a skilled martial artist who had earned her black belt through years of dedicated training and discipline. As the weeks passed, Brad's harassment continued and even intensified. He seemed to sense that Maya was reaching her breaking point, and he appeared to enjoy pushing her further and further. He would knock books out of her hands, block her path in the hallways, and make cruel comments about her disability in front of other students. The school administration seemed either unwilling or unable to do anything meaningful about the situation. When Maya reported the incidents, she was told that they would look into it, or that she should try to avoid confrontations. It became clear that she would have to handle the situation herself. Maya began to plan. She studied Brad's routines, learning when and where he was most likely to strike. She observed his friends and followers, noting who was genuinely loyal to him and who was just following along to avoid becoming targets themselves. Most importantly, she began to look for an opportunity where she could confront him without putting other students at risk. The opportunity came sooner than she expected. Brad had apparently grown tired of simple verbal harassment and had decided to escalate to physical intimidation. One afternoon after school, as Maya was leaving through a side exit to avoid the main crowd, Brad and two of his friends cornered her in an empty hallway. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Brad said, his voice taking on a more menacing tone than usual. "Little Maya, all by herself. No Sarah to protect you this time." Maya stopped her wheelchair and turned to face them. The hallway was completely empty, with most students and teachers having already left for the day. She realized that this might be exactly the opportunity she had been waiting for. "What do you want, Brad?" Maya asked calmly. "What I want," Brad said, stepping closer, "is for you to understand your place around here. I'm tired of you acting like you're as good as everyone else. I'm tired of you taking up space and making everyone uncomfortable." His friends flanked him, clearly intended to intimidate her. Maya could see in their faces that they were excited about the prospect of finally putting her in her place once and for all. "You know what I think?" Brad continued. "I think someone needs to teach you a lesson you won't forget. Maybe then you'll learn to stay out of everyone's way." Maya felt a familiar calm settling over her, the same focused state she entered during her most intense training sessions with Master Chen. Her hands rested lightly on her wheelchair's armrests, and she could feel her body preparing for action even as her mind remained perfectly clear. "And what kind of lesson did you have in mind?" Maya asked quietly. Brad smiled, apparently interpreting her calm demeanor as fear or resignation. "The kind that leaves a mark," he said, reaching forward as if to grab her. That was when Maya decided that the time for restraint had finally come to an end. The moment Brad reached toward Maya, everything changed. In one fluid motion, Maya grabbed his wrist with both hands, using a technique Master Chen had taught her for dealing with grabbing attacks. She twisted his arm at an angle that immediately caused him to lose his balance and cry out in pain. Before Brad's friends could react, Maya spun her wheelchair in a tight circle, using the momentum to sweep Brad's legs out from under him. He crashed to the floor hard, landing on his back with a loud thud that echoed through the empty hallway. "What the hell?" one of Brad's friends shouted, staring in shock as their leader struggled to get back to his feet. Maya positioned her wheelchair between herself and the other two boys, her hands ready to defend herself if they decided to attack. But they seemed frozen in place, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Brad scrambled to his feet, his face red with embarrassment and anger. "You little freak! How did you do that?" "I told you," Maya said calmly. "Underestimating people is a dangerous habit." Brad charged at her again, this time more aggressively. Maya was ready for him. As he approached, she grabbed the push handles on the sides of her wheelchair and lifted herself up, using her upper body strength to raise her feet. When Brad got close enough, she kicked out with both legs, catching him squarely in the chest and sending him stumbling backward. "This is impossible," one of Brad's friends muttered. "She's just a cripple." Maya's eyes flashed with anger at the slur, but she maintained her composure. "I'm a martial artist," she said firmly. "And if you don't want to end up like your friend there, I suggest you back away." Brad was breathing heavily now, both from the physical exertion and from the shock of being outmatched by someone he had always seen as helpless. His friends were looking at him expectantly, waiting for him to reassert his dominance, but he was beginning to realize that he was in over his head. "This isn't over," Brad said, trying to save face in front of his followers. "You got lucky this time, but you can't hide behind your tricks forever." "I'm not hiding behind anything," Maya replied. "And if you ever put your hands on me again, or if I see you bullying anyone else, you'll discover that what just happened was me being gentle with you." The threat hung in the air as Brad and his friends slowly backed away. They were clearly shaken by what they had witnessed, and Maya could see that their perception of her had fundamentally changed. She was no longer the helpless victim they thought they could push around with impunity. After they left, Maya sat alone in the hallway, her heart still racing from the confrontation. She had finally revealed her abilities, and there was no taking it back now. She knew that word would spread quickly through the school, and by tomorrow morning everyone would know that Maya Johnson was not the person they thought she was. That evening at the dojo, Maya told Master Chen what had happened. He listened without judgment, nodding occasionally as she described the confrontation. "How do you feel about what you did?" Master Chen asked when she had finished her story. "I feel relieved," Maya admitted. "For the first time in months, I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. I don't have to hide my abilities or let people treat me like I'm helpless." "And what do you think will happen next?" Master Chen inquired. Maya considered the question carefully. "I think things are going to change at school. Some people will probably be afraid of me now. Others might try to challenge me to prove that what happened was just a fluke. And Brad, I don't think Brad is going to give up easily." Master Chen smiled slightly. "You have learned much about human nature, Maya. Yes, revealing your abilities will change how people see you. Some will respect you more, but others may feel threatened by your strength. You must be prepared for both reactions." Over the next few days, Maya discovered that Master Chen's predictions were accurate. Word of her confrontation with Brad spread through Lincoln High School like wildfire. Students who had never paid attention to her before now stared openly as she passed in the hallways. Some looked impressed, others seemed nervous or afraid. The reactions from her classmates were mixed. Some students approached her with new respect, apologizing for times when they had ignored her or failed to intervene when she was being bullied. Others seemed almost resentful, as if her hidden abilities had somehow made her a fraud in their eyes. "I can't believe you never told me you knew martial arts," Sarah said as they sat together at lunch. "All this time, you've been letting Brad push you around when you could have stopped him whenever you wanted." "It's not that simple," Maya explained. "Master Chen taught me that martial arts should be used only as a last resort. I was trying to handle the situation without violence." "But you were suffering," Sarah pointed out. "Every day Brad made your life miserable and you just took it. Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth?" Maya could hear the hurt in her best friend's voice, and she realized that her secret had created a barrier between them that she hadn't fully considered. "I wanted to tell you," Maya said honestly, "but Master Chen taught me that keeping my abilities secret was part of my training. He said that true martial artists don't advertise their skills or use them to intimidate others." Sarah seemed to consider this explanation, but Maya could tell that their friendship had been affected by her deception. It was one of the unexpected consequences of revealing her abilities that she hadn't fully anticipated. Meanwhile, Brad's reaction to his humiliation was exactly what Maya had feared. Rather than backing down, he seemed determined to prove that her victory had been nothing more than luck. He began spreading rumors about Maya, claiming that she had cheated somehow, or that he had been caught off guard and wasn't trying his best. "She got one lucky shot in," Maya overheard him telling a group of students in the cafeteria. "If I had been ready for her, it would have been a completely different story. Next time I'll show everyone what really happens when someone disrespects me." Maya realized that her confrontation with Brad had only escalated the conflict rather than ending it. He was now more determined than ever to put her back in what he considered to be her place, and his wounded pride was making him more dangerous and unpredictable. The situation came to a head during lunch period on a Friday afternoon. Maya was sitting with Sarah and a few other students who had begun to show interest in befriending her now that they knew she could defend herself. The cafeteria was crowded and noisy, with students chatting and laughing as they enjoyed their break from classes. Suddenly, the noise level in the cafeteria dropped as Brad entered with a larger group of followers than usual. Maya could see immediately that he had been planning this moment, gathering an audience for whatever he had in mind. Brad walked directly to Maya's table, his chest puffed out with false confidence. "Well, look who it is," he announced loudly enough for the entire cafeteria to hear. "Our little martial arts expert. I hope you're ready for a rematch, because I've been thinking about our last meeting, and I don't think it was a fair fight." Maya remained seated at her table, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "There's nothing to discuss, Brad. What happened, happened. Let it go." "Let it go?" Brad laughed harshly. "You humiliated me in front of my friends, and now you want me to just forget about it? That's not how things work around here." The cafeteria had gone almost completely silent now, with students pulling out their phones to record what was happening. Maya could see teachers beginning to notice the commotion, but they were still too far away to intervene quickly. "What do you want, Brad?" Maya asked quietly. "I want a real fight," Brad declared. "Right here, right now. No more sneak attacks or catching me off guard. A fair fight where everyone can see what happens when someone challenges me." Maya shook her head. "I'm not going to fight you in the cafeteria, Brad. Too many people could get hurt." "Scared?" Brad taunted. "I knew it. You got lucky once, and now you're afraid to try again. You're still the same pathetic cripple you always were." The cafeteria gasped at Brad's use of the slur, and Maya felt her self-control beginning to slip. She had tolerated months of harassment and humiliation. And even after proving her abilities, Brad was still trying to diminish her with hateful language. "I'm not afraid of you," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent cafeteria. "I'm trying to protect you from yourself. You have no idea what you're asking for." Protect me? Brad laughed mockingly. That's rich. The girl in the wheelchair is going to protect me. This should be good. Before Maya could respond, Brad made a critical mistake. He reached down and grabbed the handles of Maya's wheelchair, attempting to tip it backward and dump her onto the floor in front of everyone. Maya reacted instantly. She grabbed Brad's wrists and used his own momentum against him, pulling him forward and down while simultaneously pushing back with her wheelchair. The result was that Brad flipped completely over her chair and landed hard on his back on the cafeteria floor. The sound of his body hitting the ground was followed by complete silence. Every student in the cafeteria was staring in shock at what they had just witnessed. Brad lay motionless for a moment, apparently stunned by the impact. Maya calmly repositioned her wheelchair and looked down at Brad with a mixture of pity and disappointment. "I tried to warn you," she said quietly. Brad slowly got to his feet, his face burning with humiliation. This time, his defeat had been witnessed by hundreds of students, and there was no way to explain it away or claim it was luck. "You think you're so tough?" Brad said desperately, his voice shaking with anger and embarrassment. "Let's see how tough you are when you don't have your little wheelchair to hide behind." Maya's expression hardened. "My wheelchair isn't something I hide behind, Brad. It's part of who I am, and I've learned to make it part of my strength. But if you want to see what I can do without it, I'll be happy to show you." To everyone's amazement, Maya transferred herself from her wheelchair to the floor, sitting cross-legged on the cafeteria tiles. She looked completely comfortable and confident, even without the mobility advantage of her chair. "Come on, then," Maya said calmly. "Show everyone how tough you are when you're fighting someone who's sitting on the ground." Brad hesitated, suddenly realizing how bad this would look. Fighting someone in a wheelchair was one thing, but attacking a person sitting defenseless on the ground crossed a line that even his supporters would find difficult to accept. But his pride and anger had taken control, and he couldn't back down now without losing all credibility with his peers. He stepped toward Maya, raising his fist as if to strike her. Maya moved faster than anyone could follow. From her seated position, she swept Brad's legs with her own, sending him crashing to the ground again. Before he could recover, she had grabbed his arm and applied a joint lock that immediately caused him to cry out in pain. "Submit," Maya said firmly, applying just enough pressure to make her point clear. "I submit! I submit!" Brad gasped, tapping frantically on the floor. Maya immediately released him and smoothly transferred herself back into her wheelchair. The entire cafeteria remained in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. "Let me make something very clear to everyone here," Maya said, her voice carrying to every corner of the cafeteria. "I don't want to fight anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to go to school, learn, and be treated with the same respect that every student deserves. But I will not tolerate being bullied, and I will not stand by and watch others be bullied either." She looked directly at Brad, who was still sitting on the floor nursing his sore arm. "And Brad, if you ever put your hands on me again, or if I see you harassing anyone else, what happened today will seem gentle compared to what I'm capable of." The warning was delivered quietly, but every student in the cafeteria heard it clearly. Brad nodded weakly, finally understanding that he had been completely outmatched from the very beginning. As Maya wheeled away from the scene, the cafeteria slowly began to return to normal. Students started talking again, but now the conversations were all about Maya and her incredible abilities. For the first time since she had started at Lincoln High School, Maya felt like she could hold her head high and walk through the hallways without fear. But she also knew that this was only the beginning. Word of what had happened would spread beyond the school, and her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. News of Maya's dramatic confrontation with Brad spread far beyond Lincoln High School. Videos of the cafeteria incident, recorded on dozens of student phones, quickly went viral on social media platforms. Within days, Maya found herself at the center of national attention, with news outlets and disability rights organizations reaching out to hear her story. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People were inspired by Maya's courage and impressed by her martial arts skills. Comments poured in from around the world, with many people sharing their own experiences with bullying and discrimination. Maya had inadvertently become a symbol of empowerment for people with disabilities and anyone who had ever felt powerless in the face of bullying. "I can't believe this is happening," Maya said to Sarah as they scrolled through the thousands of supportive messages on her social media accounts. "I never wanted this kind of attention. I just wanted Brad to leave me alone." "You did more than that," Sarah replied, her voice filled with admiration. "You showed everyone that people with disabilities are stronger than anyone imagined. You've given hope to kids all over the world who are dealing with bullies." The school administration, which had previously been reluctant to address Maya's complaints about Brad's harassment, suddenly became very interested in her story. Principal Williams called Maya into her office for a meeting where she praised Maya's courage and asked if there was anything the school could do to support her. "We want to make sure you feel safe and supported here at Lincoln High," Principal Williams said, "and we're exploring the possibility of starting an anti-bullying program that could help other students who might be facing similar challenges." Maya appreciated the principal's newfound concern, but she couldn't help feeling that it had come too late. If the administration had taken her complaints seriously from the beginning, the situation might never have escalated to the point where she felt compelled to use physical force. Meanwhile, Brad had become a pariah at school. His friends had abandoned him, embarrassed by their association with someone who had been so thoroughly defeated by a girl in a wheelchair. He walked the hallways with his head down, avoiding eye contact with other students, and clearly struggling with the complete reversal of his social status. Some students felt sorry for Brad, believing that his public humiliation was punishment enough for his behavior. But Maya noticed that without Brad's leadership, the culture of bullying at Lincoln High had significantly diminished. Other students who had been targets of harassment were now walking with more confidence, inspired by Maya's example. One afternoon, as Maya was leaving her chemistry class, she was surprised to find Brad waiting for her in the hallway. He looked nervous and uncomfortable, clearly struggling to find the right words. "Maya," he said quietly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" Maya stopped her wheelchair and studied his face. The arrogance and cruelty that had defined his expression for so long were gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine remorse. "What do you want, Brad?" "I want to apologize," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "For everything. For all the things I said and did to you. For the way I treated you. I was wrong. And I'm sorry." Maya was surprised by the sincerity in his voice. She had expected Brad to remain bitter and resentful about his defeat, but instead, he seemed to have gained some genuine insight into his behavior. "Why are you apologizing now?" Maya asked. "Is it because you got caught and everyone saw what happened?" Brad shook his head. "At first, yeah. I was just angry and embarrassed. But then I started thinking about everything that happened, and I realized that you could have really hurt me if you wanted to. You had every right to make me pay for all the horrible things I did, but you didn't. You showed me mercy, even when I didn't deserve it." Maya considered his words carefully. She could see that Brad was genuinely struggling with the realization of how cruel he had been, and how easily Maya could have retaliated in kind. "I also realized," Brad continued, "that I wasn't just hurting you. I was hurting myself too. All that anger and hatred, it was eating me up inside. I became someone I don't even recognize anymore." "What are you going to do about it?" Maya asked. "I'm going to therapy," Brad admitted, his cheeks reddening with embarrassment. "My parents are making me go, but honestly, I think I need it. I need to figure out why I thought it was okay to treat people the way I did." Maya nodded approvingly. That's a good start. But Brad, apologizing to me isn't enough. You need to apologize to every person you've ever bullied or hurt, and you need to make sure it never happens again. I know, Brad said. I've already started reaching out to some people. It's hard because a lot of them don't want to talk to me, and I don't blame them. But I'm going to keep trying. Over the following weeks, Maya watched as Brad began the difficult process of making amends for his past behavior. He approached former victims with genuine apologies, often in private to avoid making a public spectacle of their pain. Some people forgave him, while others were not ready or willing to do so, and Brad seemed to accept both responses with grace. Maya also noticed that Brad had become an unexpected ally in the fight against bullying at Lincoln High. When he saw other students engaging in harassment or discrimination, he would quietly intervene, using his knowledge of bullying tactics to help victims and educate perpetrators. The transformation was remarkable, and Maya found herself gaining a new respect for Brad's capacity for growth and change. It reminded her of something Master Chen had always taught her about the martial arts, that true strength comes not from defeating enemies, but from turning enemies into friends. Meanwhile, Maya's story had caught the attention of martial arts organizations and disability rights groups across the country. She began receiving invitations to speak at schools, conferences, and community events about her experiences with bullying and her journey in martial arts. At first, Maya was reluctant to accept these speaking engagements. She was a private person by nature, and the sudden fame made her uncomfortable. But Master Chen encouraged her to share her story, pointing out that she had an opportunity to help countless other people who were facing similar challenges. "Your story has power," Master Chen told her during one of their training sessions. "You have shown the world that disability does not mean weakness, and that every person has the right to defend themselves and demand respect. This is a responsibility that comes with your abilities." Maya's first speaking engagement was at a middle school in a neighboring town, where she addressed an assembly of students about bullying and self-defense. She was nervous at first, but as she began to share her story, she could see the impact her words were having on the young faces in the audience. "I want you all to understand something very important," Maya said as she concluded her presentation. "You are stronger than you think you are, all of you. Whether you have a disability or not, whether you're popular or not, whether you're big or small, you have value and you deserve respect." After the assembly, several students approached Maya with their own stories of bullying and discrimination. One young girl, who used crutches to walk, told Maya that she had inspired her to stand up for herself when older students made fun of her mobility aids. "I always thought I was weak because I couldn't walk like everyone else," the girl said. "But after hearing your story, I realized that I'm actually pretty strong. I have to work harder than most people just to get around, and that makes me tough, not weak." Maya felt a deep sense of satisfaction hearing these words. She realized that Master Chen had been right about the responsibility that came with her abilities and her story. She had the power to change how people thought about disability and strength, and she had a duty to use that power for good. As the months passed, Maya's speaking engagements became more frequent and more high-profile. She appeared on national television programs, wrote articles for magazines, and even began working on a book about her experiences. The shy, bullied girl who had once hidden her abilities had become a confident advocate for disability rights and anti-bullying efforts. The transformation wasn't just external. Maya found that sharing her story and helping others had given her a new sense of purpose and confidence. She no longer saw her wheelchair as something that made her different or limited her possibilities. Instead, she had learned to view it as part of what made her unique and strong. At Lincoln High School, Maya had become something of a celebrity. Students who had once ignored or pitied her now approached her with respect and admiration. Teachers sought her advice on how to create more inclusive classrooms, and the administration had indeed implemented the anti-bullying program they had promised. Sarah, who had initially felt hurt by Maya's secrecy about her martial arts training, had become her strongest supporter and closest collaborator. Together, they started a peer support group at school for students who had experienced bullying, creating a safe space where victims could share their experiences and develop strategies for dealing with harassment. "I'm sorry I was upset with you for not telling me about your training," Sarah said one day as they worked together to plan an upcoming support group meeting. "I understand now why you kept it secret, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished." "You were right to be upset," Maya replied. "I should have trusted you with the truth. But I'm glad we worked through it, because I couldn't do any of this without your support." Even Brad had found his place in the new culture that was developing at Lincoln High. His transformation from bully to ally had been genuine and lasting, and he had become one of the most effective advocates for respectful treatment of all students. He often worked with Maya and Sarah on their anti-bullying initiatives, bringing a unique perspective as someone who had been on both sides of the harassment dynamic. "I'll probably spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the things I did," Brad told Maya one day as they prepared for a presentation to incoming freshmen about building a respectful school community. "But working with you and Sarah on these programs, it feels like I'm finally doing something worthwhile with my life." Maya appreciated Brad's commitment to change, but she also understood that forgiveness was a process, not a single event. She had forgiven him for the way he had treated her, but she also remained vigilant to ensure that his transformation was genuine and lasting. Master Chen watched Maya's journey with pride and satisfaction. His student had not only mastered the physical techniques of martial arts, but had also embraced the deeper philosophical principles of using strength to protect others and create positive change in the world. "You have become everything I hoped you would become when we first started training," Master Chen told Maya during one of their sessions. "You have learned that true martial arts is not about defeating enemies, but about overcoming the challenges within ourselves and helping others do the same." As Maya's senior year drew to a close, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed since that first confrontation with Brad in the school hallway. She had gone from being a victim of bullying to becoming a voice for empowerment and change. She had learned to embrace her identity as a person with a disability, not despite her limitations, but because of the unique strengths those challenges had helped her develop. College recruiters had taken notice of Maya's advocacy work and academic achievements, and she had received acceptance letters from several prestigious universities. She had decided to study social work and disability rights law with the goal of continuing her advocacy work on a larger scale. On graduation day, as Maya rolled across the stage to receive her diploma, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. Students, teachers, and family members rose to their feet in recognition not just of her academic achievements, but of the courage and determination she had shown in transforming herself and her school community. In her valedictorian speech, Maya looked out at her classmates and reflected on the journey they had all taken together. 4 years ago, I thought high school was going to be about surviving until graduation, Maya said. I thought my goal was just to get through each day without being hurt or humiliated. But what I learned is that survival isn't enough. We all have the power to create the kind of world we want to live in and the responsibility to use that power to help others. She paused and made eye contact with Brad, who was sitting in the audience with his family, tears streaming down his face. I learned that people can change, that enemies can become friends, and that our greatest weaknesses can become our greatest strengths if we're willing to do the hard work of growth and self-examination. As Maya concluded her speech and the graduates threw their caps into the air, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction and anticipation for the future. She had discovered that being different wasn't something to hide or overcome, but something to embrace and use as a source of strength. The bullied girl in the wheelchair had become a martial artist, an advocate, and a leader. But more importantly, she had become someone who understood that true power comes not from defeating others, but from lifting them up and helping them discover their own strength. As she left Lincoln High School for the final time, Maya knew that her story was just beginning. She had learned to fight not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt powerless or alone. And with Master Chen's training, her family's support, and the lessons she had learned from both her enemies and her friends, she was ready to take on whatever challenges the future might bring.